Coming up on the Louis Diaz podcast.
Whatever you want to do, you can do. But all the thing that we have in common is this mind of ours. And you could be doing the best thing with the shittiest mindset, and you can be doing the worst thing with the best mindset. And your inner experience is what Three Jewels is really interested in.
Hi, and welcome to the Louis Diaz podcast, the podcast where you'll meet some of the most fascinating and incredible people from all walks of life. And together, we're inviting you in to be our special guest as we take you through some of their amazing experiences, adventures, and journeys. So sit back, and I hope you enjoy this episode of the Louis Diaz podcast. Okay, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Louis Diaz podcast. Today, my guest is Hector Marcel. I'm super excited about this. Hector, you're the president of Three Jewels, which is a global enlightenment studio. Did I get that right?
Yeah, we're the Enlightenment Studio based out of New York City, but thanks to COVID, we're everywhere now.
Yeah, amazing. I want to dive deep into the Three Jewels and who you are and what you do. But firstly, I have to tell the audience here that I've been kind of really captivated by you on social media. That's how I found you, which is, I guess, the whole everywhere thing that you're doing now. And the thing that sort of attracted me to you the most was what everyone could possibly see right now is that smile. I was like, how? This guy has the most captivating smile. And I like to think that I'm a good judge for when something's been put on. And so I watched a lot of you. Yeah, I watched a lot of you. And I was like, no, this is real. This is a joy. This is pure joy manifesting in this glorious smile that I can't seem to take my eyes off. What's your secret?
My secret is trauma and depression. No.
Start from the bottom. Work your way up.
It's genuine, but it was, but it's also has been often contrived. You know, like I'm practicing and contrived not as in like grin and bear it, contrived as in be aware that you could find joy in almost anything. Even the most terrible things can seem funny because they can be so ridiculous in your life. And if you can activate joy there, at least that's the best you can get out of the terrible situation. And so it's become a habit to look for the joy. And it was an instruction from my teacher. You know, I'm practicing Tibetan Buddhism, and I don't want to be a Buddhist. Like I'm the most reluctant Buddhist. And so one of the core practices there, practice is called the Six Perfections, is the active practice, which are a lot of instructions around joyful effort. It's called joyful or joyous effort, which is having fun doing good things, including overcoming the trauma and the terrible things. And so it can come off shocking sometimes because people would like to wallow in their sadness. I mean, me too, you know. And so often people come to Three Jewels or come to me and they just really bring the ugly baby of their trauma or their terrible feelings for me to validate it, or for other people to say, oh, it's okay, it's such a lovely baby. You know, it's a freaking ugly baby. And if if you could laugh at the baby, which you can't.
Yeah.
Thanks for it. It took a lot of faking it until I got real joy. But it's true. Like I'm not telling you an untruth. It really is true. And so let's get straight into it.
Oh, no, it's wonderful. Actually, I know someone that had a baby recently. And yeah. So maybe not the best analogy for me right now.
What a good start. Oh my God.
Yeah, we got off to a great
okay.
start.
Maybe you can show me pictures later.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I will.
Yeah, thanks.
You'll be laughing all week. But yeah, look, I guess it's funny that you say that, because I think that's kind of where you get to a point when you're trying to practice more of this mindfulness stuff as a novice, where you wonder, like, where's it all going? Like, what's my, like, I want to know at least where the destination is, not because I want to sort of get there in a straight line, or I feel like I'm capable of even doing that, but because I just kind of want to know. And I think that's it. Like, I know that the road might be, bumpy and rocky and getting there, but
it will be. Yeah.
But look, what am I aiming for? And if it's something as beautiful, simple, and pure as laughing at, the ugly side of life, or the things that are traumatic, or that unfortunate baby, it's, I feel like that's a beautiful place to get to. And it's funny, it reminds me of, actually, I watched this controversial interview that I can't remember what his name is, did with Shia LaBeouf recently. He's an actor. He's a guy from Transformers. And he was talking about getting to this point in his life where he needed a lot of help, and he started hanging around with these monks, and they'd be driving to the shops with whatever money they had, and they'd just look at each other and start bursting out in laughter, just spontaneously. And I just thought, wow, I want to get to that place. And so, yeah, it's really great to hear that's...
Yeah. The road to enlightenment is lined with obstacles, which are usually bumps on the road in the shape of ugly babies.
And then overcome by just laughter, pure laughter. Contrived.
If you can't laugh at the tragic side of your life, then the tragic will get you. Yeah. Like, that's the depth of it, really. Like, there's nothing that dissolves the tragedy more than laughing at it.
Yeah. That's so... I love that. I love that so much. I remember when I was like 19 or something, I was walking up the staircase and I was broke, and I knew that my last paycheck at this bar that I was working at wasn't going to be enough to cover my rent or everything. And I suddenly said to myself, you know what? I'm not going to let this get me down. Like, I was really at the end, and I got to the point where I had no choice but to turn around my mindset. Anyway, it turns out that that accidentally doubled my pay in that envelope. So I went out afterwards. But no, like it's there are those times in your life, and I think, like saying, as a novice in the world of mindfulness, someone who's definitely on a self-discovery journey when it comes to these, like, trauma and all of that, where you can feel that shift in mindset has really benefited you in that one circumstance. So
it really has. But it's a practice. That's why I said it was contrived. Of course, you don't want to laugh when terrible things happen to you, but enough terrible things happen to you, it becomes a bit of a joke. Yeah, to be triggered by them.
Yeah, I love that. So talk to us about 3 Jewels. I'm curious about it. You said it's because of COVID, it's become like a everywhere thing.
Yeah, it's a massive thing. Yeah. So I'll paint you a picture of what 3 Jewels is now. Mm-hmm. And then one of the reasons I was really excited to talk to you was you're Australian and I'm Australian migrant,
Me too.
And your name is Luis Diaz,
sí.
Right?
Gracias.
And my name is Hector Marcel. My name is Hector Marcelo Jerónimo Ochoa Peralta de Figurilli de Malacaria, born in Argentina, moved to Australia when I was 10, migrant kid. Yeah.
I knew it was Latin something.
Yeah, it was from Argentina. Mm-hmm. And then I experienced 1978 or something, the Aussie racism really well. Like, and it wasn't like we think of racism right now, but it was just, there weren't too many people that looked like me and ate salami in the lunch room, So I got the rough end of the stick for a few years, which sort of toughened me up for criticism. It was a really good blessing. And also, anyway, I'll get back to that migrant story and my roots in Australia, because it's thanks to the Australian cynical state of mind where we question everything, that it's helped me really discover the steps to a path that can wake you up. And then I chose very deliberately to practice in a system that was already established. And that's where I had to push my Australian boundaries, because we want to invent everything ourselves, and no one's an authority. Well, I had to challenge that for myself. And that was the hardest thing for me. So now I run this place called Three Jewels. I'm the president of the board. This organization is a non-profit. It's been around for 26 years. It was started by this beautiful nun, this black nun called Annie Palmer. She passed away last year. And it began as just a little place where you can go learn meditation in the 90s. And you'd sit there with a nun or a monk from the Tibetan tradition, and they'd teach you how to focus your mind, because that would help you be less stressed and more, at peace. And now mindfulness has become everything, and it's got research and whatever. So today we take care of about 47,000 visits a year, virtually and in person. We have a little flagship store in a really cool, sexy Lower East Side area of Manhattan, sort of bohemian, and also Soho, sort of sexy looking. Right. Everyone looks hot and young, and I'm the old guy. Everyone's like models and whatever. But they find refuge in Three Jewels. It's got a little cafe at the front, so you walk in there, have a cup of tea, and then there's this rose-colored mirror wall at the back, and you walk up to it, and it feels like it's just a cafe. And you walk up to this rose-colored mirror, and you see your reflection approaching you, and then you touch the door, which says "Enter the Void Bliss," and you see your reflection being pushed out of the way, and you walk into this almost psychedelic, fluorescent colored room where you have to get rid of your shoes and your coat and your bag, and there's restrooms, and you drop everything, and then you go through another door, which is the enlightenment studio, where people practice yoga, meditation, and workshops, and we teach Eastern philosophy. And in that room, there's nothing. There's no images. It's just a blank room with white cushions, and the most poppy thing is your body on the cushion. And so everything's about, well, who the hell are you? And what's this body and mind doing on this planet? And so people come for a kind of refuge to Three Jewels. It's an oasis in the middle of a really crazy town. Yeah. Have you been to New York? Like, do you know much?
Well, as much as you can learn from all the movies, including Godzilla and all of those films that you see.
The crazy thing about New York is when you see all those films and you get here, it's exactly the same. Like, they didn't have to act. There's no dramatization. It really is that bizarre, and sometimes a little bit more bizarre. Like, it's rats run around the subway dragging pizzas. It's true. They do it. It's not like someone set it up.
It's so
it's
funny.
Like that's what you have to walk past to get on the subway.
Yeah. You remind me, my childhood was like watching Letterman late at night and listen to him talk about the rats literally every episode.
Yeah. And it's a real thing. And so then we have all these iconic. So anyway, that's where Three Jewels is situated. But it began as this sort of give meditation free or by donation to anyone with a mind, because anyone with a mind, doesn't matter if you're homeless or if you're billionaire, you need peace of mind so you can go about your life, whatever your life is going to be. So it's sort of a non-discriminatory way of equalizing the human experience. You want to go and build buildings, go and build buildings. You want to go make babies and have children, little ugly babies. You want to do whatever you want to do, you can do. But all the thing that we have in common is this mind of ours. And you could be doing the best thing with the shittiest mindset, and you can be doing the worst thing with the best mindset, and your inner experience is what Three Jewels is really interested in. Can you work with your inner experience so it doesn't matter what's coming at you, you remain steady and in the highest view that you could possibly master. And, in the Buddhist tradition, that is the view on understanding how things actually function, meaning, how do you really experience the world? Is the world really attacking you, or is it you labeling the world as a suffering place or a terrible place? And that big question gets answered through debate and whatever. But to summarize it is that there is nothing that's crawling around the planet, not an amoeba, not a dog, not an animal, not a human, not any other language human, that doesn't have these two things in common. Everybody wants happiness, wants some fulfillment, and moves towards it. And everybody wants to avoid suffering, hurt, pain, and moves away from it. And in that sense, we're 100% the same. You and a dog, me and a dog, babies and adults, angry people and happy people are moved by those two things, right? And if you get that, and we find out, well, that's what we want, then the strategies to get that is the thing that differs, you know? And if the strategy is useful and helpful, you'll end up with a smile, I think. And if you don't, you'll end up with a frown, you know? I have both.
Hey, enjoying the episode so far? Be sure to follow us and leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you're listening on. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the episode. Yeah, it's funny. You know, that reminds me of something that just popped into my head yesterday. Because we idolize so many people in modern society, especially, you know, with social media now. It's not just your big screen actors. It's literally anyone that's having their 15 minutes of fame. And I'm trying to long distance be a father to a 14-year-old who's now sort of coming into herself. She started hitting me with all of these really, like, you know, profound quotes. I think one I wrote down here on a Post-it note was, "You might dread it, but you won't regret it." Was her way of sort of trying to pep me up to do something I don't want to do, which was like my morning routine. But it's funny because I wanted to sort of say something to her yesterday. I was thinking about this little quote that I came up with, is that you want to admire the people that have got a smile on their face after living a hard life, not after living an easy one. And I think that's what your frown and smile reminds me of, you know, like, and also,
that's wise. That's a wise way to look at it.
But what an amazing, like, what are we in 2023 now? I keep forgetting. I honestly have asked this question about a dozen times in this year so far. But what a great evolution of the Three Jewels, I guess, studio, starting in the 90s by a nun and sort of coming to this place where you really got your philosophy and what you're trying to achieve down to a T, and that it's open to everyone and that everyone comes.
It's really open to everyone. We have all ages, all sizes, all languages. I mean, we're teaching all the way to Taiwan, people from Australia taking our trainings, and they're staying up overnight to be live on our trainings. People from Mexico, Hawaii, South America, Central America, Ukraine, Russia, in the same room talking to each other. It's incredible to see it, and we're not teaching anything groundbreaking. So just so you know, the foundation of Three Jewels, the monk that I met way back then, he translated the entire curriculum that Tibetan monks and nuns study in a monastic setting over 20 years.
Yep.
He translated that from the Tibetan into English for the very first time in the 90s when I was there. That's what I was there hanging out with him doing.
Right.
And so for the first time in the 90s, the Western mind had access to the Eastern philosophical viewpoint of where reality comes from and what role human minds play to experience that reality. And it's incredible content. We think Buddhism is woo-woo, close your eyes. It's the furthest from that. It's psychoanalysis and phenomenology and sociology, and it's talking about how constructs of mind create experiences. Like, it's incredible. Yeah, it's neurophysics from an Eastern perspective. Yeah. So so anyway, 20 years worth of study condensed into an 8-year course that we give at Three Jewels slowly over time, and we don't make up anything. We grab from that. And so, for example, one of those modules is the practice of meditation as an essential core practice, because the point of meditation is to train your stupid mind that wants to think about 1,000 things and just focus it on the thing you would like to place attention on. And if you had that power, if you had gone to the mental gym and were able to focus your mind on what the hell you really want to focus on and not be distracted by the next thought and the next thought and the next thought. If you could have that power, you would focus your mind on understanding how you actually get happy and how to avoid suffering, right? That's the whole point of meditation. To sit with your eyes closed is stupid. It's dumb, right? It's to sit there, and if sitting there breathing was going to give you any relief at all, then everybody that's sitting and breathing should be relieved. If passing out and just zoning out was going to help you in some way, everyone would wake up from sleep feeling extremely at peace. And some people wake up really shitty. And so it's not that. Meditation is a technique. So anyway, there's modules in that training, in the Tibetan Buddhist training and Indo-Tibetan training, about how to move a mind, how to put it in the gym so you come out of it after months of training and we're able to... I can multitask because I've got focus. No.
I worked in a call center once, so I can listen and do at the same time.
Good. I used to run call centers, Telstra, and then I used to run Ergon Energy's call centers in Queensland.
You've come so
far. I love
far.
Call centers.
But I interrupted you with my selfie. So
no, it's good. What I'm saying is one of those many courses that we teach at 3 Jewels, or the practices, is a practice of meditation. So it's a gym for attention and focus, and a whole bunch of other states of mind that we're able to have, right? So as humans, we can have an emotional experience, which is also mental, of love, right? To actually love someone unconditionally is a possible thing for a human mind. Well, Buddhists say, well, you can cause that. You can, if you know how that's produced in your mind, nothing to do with the ugly baby or a nice baby. You could feel love for the ugly baby, you know?
Yeah.
If you can understand what it is that your mind does to make that leap. And so anyway, the content at 3 Jewels hasn't changed since the 90s. What has changed is the dress up. What do we do to talk about those very human conditions and how to transform them to joy or wisdom, to love or compassion and all the other disciplines of wellness, mental wellness. And that's why I think we're so successful, because through COVID, people were taken aback. I don't know what to do. My world is, I'm at home and all of a sudden I'm angry. And I used to want to be at home a lot. Nobody wanted to be at work. They wanted to be at home. All of a sudden everyone's at home and now they hate it. Why? It's really... Careful what you wish for. You might get it collectively.
So true.
You know, honestly, we used to hate work and I want to go home. Now everybody wants to get the hell out of the home. When we're never satisfied. And that's one of the things you get to understand. There is this, whatever you get in front of you, within a few seconds, you'll change it to suffering. And that can change. You can change that. So that journey for me, I'm not teaching it because I'm some expert at it. Well, I'm teaching it because I survived 26 years of trying that practice on, and some of it's rubbed off. I've got some insights about it is possible to transform a suffering into a learning, if nothing else, and maybe some cynical laughter if you're Australian. And then Americans still don't quite get, by the way, when I make my the cynical Aussie joker isn't fully understood yet.
It's niche. It is niche. You've got to be invited to that party, I guess, to get it.
It really is. It leaves some people baffled. And I have to explain. No, it was a joke. You see, it's funny because.
I love the way that you phrased it. I'm trying to sort of keep that while I was listening to you. I was trying to keep that, I guess, that tagline, like a gym for focus and attention. Was it? Is that the way you phrased it?
Yeah.
God, it's so good. It's so true.
It is, and it really is.
Love that. And because you know what's funny? Like, I've always been into exercise. I got really sick when I was young, went to a naturopath. He told me to start doing push-ups. And so I became a little bit obsessed after a while with exercise and doing push-ups at home. And then I was like, I don't need a gym. And then something's happened. I think it's like a social media. People are seeing lots more hot people on their screens and going, shit, I need to be hot now. So gyms have really taken off, like big time here. I'm not sure about New York, probably even bigger.
Same. People, they need to move something. Yeah.
And it's weird because I'm still in that phase of my life where I'm really not wanting to hit a gym because I don't feel like I need it. I can go and grab a tree branch and do some chin-ups and do some push-ups or whatever, go for a run. But I see all these people going to gyms and I'm thinking to myself, I see what you're all doing, but I'm not sure that this is the right gym for us right now. Like the one with the dumbbells is not really the one that we need. Like, yes, you're going to look incredible. Keep that up. But still, like, you're going to need something else. There's something else that you're looking for. And I don't know where it is that you can get it. But now I think I just found out the 3 jewels.
This is the most transformative thing that okay, let's rewind. Hector,
let's go back there.
The migrant kid moved to, actually we landed in Villawood first. I was telling you, Villawood, which is the detention center out Western Sydney somewhere. Yeah. It's now a detention center. It used to be like army barracks or airport barracks, you know, like those half tubes made of corrugated iron. That was the hostel that migrants landed in. And my dad was so depressed about it, he was a Karen about it and argued with the thing, and they moved us to Coogee by the beach. And so that's where I grew up. My dad had an incredible epiphany or pride, I'm not sure. But he said, Argentina couldn't maintain me and my family. Australia took us in. We're Australian. I don't want you speaking Spanish. I don't want you having Spanish friends. He said, F Argentina, we are Australian. So first of all, that created a kind of comedy of errors where we couldn't have any Spanish friends. Then the rule was we all have to speak English at home. And they didn't know English. At least we were going to school. The 4 kids were going to school, but my parents didn't know English. So my mum, I'm going to say a rude word in your podcast. My mum would go, come on, children, it's time for breastfuck. And so because we were kids and we heard that word in school as a naughty word, we'd sit there just cracking up and trying not to embarrass her because it's your mum and it was like full of respect, you know. And then she's like, why? I say wrong. Is breastfuck no good? And I'm like, and so we're like, she forced us to tell her and she was so embarrassed. But then like she'd go to the shops and she's like, I looking for shit for the bed, to put shit on the bed. And we're like, no, mom, it's sheets. Yeah. So anyway, that was a funny side effect. But what it really did for us is it forced us to be Australian, right? To learn a different way of being. And so I think it was my dad's pride, and that really, really helped. So once those couple of years were overcome, where I began to, I stopped even thinking Spanish, you know, then I did the Australian thing, which is you finish high school and you go backpacking somewhere, you know. Most Aussies go to bloody the London.
Yeah.
You know, like,
that's it.
Stupid.
That's it. London.
Well, it's a foreign land. It's not. So I decided, mostly because I was afraid that I couldn't, like my English wasn't so good. I couldn't read as well. I was a dumb migrant kid. No one in my family ever went to university. So I was very afraid of going to university, even though that was the next step. So I decided to backpack for a year. Just do the Aussie thing and don't go to London, but backpack. And I thought, why don't I go back to Argentina? And the cheapest way to do that was to fly through New York. And I hated America because at the time it was like American imperialists, you know, nuclear, Cold War, etc. So it was the last place on earth I wanted to come. And I was forced by this cheap ticket that I bought to spend 4 stops in the US. One of them was New York, and I had to be there 2 weeks or something. So I bought the ticket because it was the cheapest ticket. And it blew my mind to stand on top of the World Trade Center and see what humans conjured up from the ground, this concrete jungle filled with humans. I had never seen anything like it. And quickly my Aussie judgment of Americans dropped away. And I realized, first of all, New York is not America. New York is the leftover from all the really cool people in America that don't fit in mainland America. They come to New York and be weird. And the same for all the Europeans and the same. So it's like this cosmopolitan thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I came here on a backpack avoiding university. And on my second trip here, because I fell in love and I came back again, I did 3 years around the world backpacking. I was avoiding university a lot. Also, because some old guy told me, he's like, listen, don't do what all the other kids are doing. He was a friend of the family's. He's like, you want a real education? Go travel and see what other people around the world are doing. See which ones are happy, and then you copy them. Yeah. Don't go to university. And I'm like, wow, he was a university teacher, an art teacher. He's like, you're going to waste your time.
He had inside knowledge.
Yeah. And so I did, and it really was an education. I saw the most incredible human beings all over Asia, all over South America, or Europe, and I saw some really tragic humans, and I saw some tragic 30-year-olds, and I saw some tragic 50-year-olds, and it gave me real, like, I don't want that, and you've got a career, and you've got a house, and I want that, but I don't want that. It was very good for me. But the biggest aha was I accidentally walked into Three Jewels on opening night, thinking I was going to a housewarming party of a friend of mine, and I walked into the wrong bloody party. And Annie Pelma, that black nun, grabbed my hand and saw my housewarming present in a bag. And she's like, oh, you brought a present for Buddha thing? And she dragged me all the way back. And I'm like, dress-up party? Like, I was a little confused. I'm in my 20s. I'm like, okay. So I just went along. Why is everyone dressed as monks and nuns? I didn't understand. And then by the time she made me make offerings to Green Tara, the statue of some Buddha, female Buddha, and she took my gift and I couldn't take it back because she put it on the altar and everything. She's like, oh, so kind. And I'm like, is this such and such's party? And she's like, no, this is Three Jewels. And I'm like, what's Three Jewels? And so then the conversation started. I exited pretty fast. I went next door, got plastered with my friends and had an awesome party. But that night I dreamt of Three Jewels, and I dreamt of a girl I met there. And I went back the next day and I took my first meditation class because it was free. And I wanted to figure out, like, I felt drawn to that. I wasn't looking for it. I was like, screw religion. Religion sucks. This place looks religious. Yeah. And this monk said, oh, so you know anything about meditation? I'm like, nothing. I just know it's free. And he's like, okay. So he's like, so do you think your mind is your mind? I'm like, of course it's my mind. It's my mind. Yeah. He's like, okay, well, see if you can hold your attention and control your mind for just a couple of minutes. I'm like, a couple of minutes? Duh, it's my mind. I can do whatever I want. I didn't last 3 seconds of attention. And I knew it. I knew something was amiss. He's like, we can try again. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, I was really upset, you know, like, I realized I had zero control of this mind of mine, and it was doing all sorts of things. And the implications were, if I was so unaware that my mind was everywhere, and here is someone saying you could actually train your mind to be placed where you would like it to be, which I thought that's what I was doing by traveling the world and doing my thing. There's another reality happening right here, right now, for all of humanity, and nobody can step into that door because they got no control of their mind. And when I realized that, I just practiced out of sheer frustration, not because I wanted to be a Buddhist, just because I couldn't focus my mind on what the hell I wanted to for more than 3 seconds. Eventually we moved to 5 seconds. Eventually we moved to 10 seconds where I could hold my attention on the breath and not be daydreaming about something else or lunch. And it's a real gym for the mind. And once you get that kind of focus, and in the Eastern traditions, you then learn that's called shamatha, single point of concentration, and that allows all sorts of things to happen. Then I was hooked in the philosophy, but really rejecting the expression of that tradition. You know, it looks very religious. I don't want altars. I don't want deities. I just want the technology of mind. But I met enough Buddhist teachers through that struggle time, which was a couple of years. I kept going back. It's like going to the gym because you hate it and you know you need it. It's like that. Like the doctor said, go to the gym. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm at the bloody gym hating the gym, you know, but you're there long enough, you see yourself bulk up. You see the benefits of a healthier mind. Yeah. And after that, I was hooked in the philosophy, and it was really humbling to have to drop my misconceptions of what looked religious, but was actually a metaphorical engagement with a green statue of Tara, which is supposed to represent in your mind a specific thing. And it's a very iconographic system of just developing your mind. Once I learned that, I was hooked. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And so I used that technology to become a very effective organizational change manager in the corporate world. So I used all the Buddhist tricks, removed the Buddhist iconography, and then just worked with the psychology from the Eastern perspective of how minds can focus and how minds can get to good outcomes. And then I became a pretty successful organizational change manager in Australia. And then I got headhunted to come back to New York, and I came. And then I got asked to run 3 Jewels. And so I've been running it now for 14 years. And I don't know, we have like 200 staff and volunteers, 50 teachers. We've got, like I said, 47,000 visits. We reach all over the globe. And we're a non-profit. So every cent that we make, we just throw it back to giving scholarships or giving or taking meditation to places and people that won't get access to. So we'll go to homeless shelters, we'll go to schools. And because everyone with a mind contain that mind, and it doesn't matter what your external circumstances are, you could really find peace and focus. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a short migrant breakfast to
No, I love it. Bless your mum. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. It's like the classic migrant story, and it's so good because it's so common here. But I just love how it's, like you said at the beginning, it's like a comedy of errors or something like that. It's
totally.
It's just
and that's the awesome thing about the Aussie mindset. If it wasn't for the Aussie mindset that I was forced to learn thanks to my parents, I wouldn't have enjoyed the comedy of errors. You see, like, we're pretty cynical. That can create a barrier, and it did for me learning the Eastern philosophy. So, you know, I've gone and hung out with the Dalai Lama. I've studied with them. I know all these books. That I met the teacher of the Dalai Lama. Like, I'm in that world, yeah? And it took me to peel away my Aussie cynicism of organized religion and systems, because we know better. That was the downside of what I learned as an Aussie when I moved as a migrant. The upside is it brought me this constant inquisitive, prove it. How does it work really? What's the end goal really? You know, like that kind of Aussie tenacity that's like, okay, I don't believe all the bullshit packaging, but tell me the essence. That cynicism and that looking to find the real cause, that's helped me tremendously to peel away the cultural trappings of Buddhism, which, by the way, Buddhism, I hate being called a Buddhist, so I changed my name to Wake Upist, because the word Bud in Sanskrit means to awaken. So the Buddha's name wasn't Buddha, his name was Gautama, right?
Okay.
But they called him the Buddha because he's the one that Buddha'd, the one that Bud woke, Buddha'd, the one to wake up. So the real term means a person who sees the illusion of suffering and wakes up to it can transcend suffering and get to real happiness because it's somewhere here, not out there. So they called them a Buddha, and they can call that person a Buddha, and that person woke up, and that person woke up, and that person woke up. And so I prefer a wake upist than a Buddhist because it's more true. And I think that's thanks to the Aussie-ness. It's like, okay, don't give me the Buddhist bullshit, give me the wake upist bullshit, you know, because that's more relevant. I can wake up. I can't be a Buddha, but I can wake up. Yeah. You know? And it's the same thing, but the term has different meanings.
Yeah, I think the other thing about Aussie culture that I've come to appreciate a little more since coming back from a short trip overseas was how we can laugh at a lot of things. It's a funny, larrikin kind of country.
Really, it's defiant.
Like you'll be somewhere and someone will crack a joke. I do love that about this place.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You can just laugh at anything.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so great talking to to an Aussie that's, overseas, because you get it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's why I wanted to come on the show, because it really is the more nuanced Aussie cynicism, laughter, joke is lost on the Americans. Yeah, on most Americans. I am in New York, so I get a bunch of eclectics from the US, but it's still the United States. Yeah. And they're like, what do you mean, sir?
Oh, boy. Hi, all the US listeners, by the way. We love you.
We love you.
We love you. And so, oh, gosh. And what was the other thing that you said there? I just disappeared. See, that's my focus gone.
That's okay. I can tell you another mum story. So she took my nephew to the movies because she wanted to shout him, a movie because he was a teenager and whatever. So he was my embarrassed 14-year-old nephew, and she's like, I want to buy for you the food for the movie. And he's like, okay. And so she turns up to the thing. She's like, I want one big cock porn, please. So anyway, he couldn't hide fast enough.
Oh, bless her. Oh, man. How many laughs she would have provided you with over the years.
Too many. And then she knew it at the end, so she just gave up trying. She just took it on, like, okay, I say like this, I say it wrong, it's okay.
I've just remembered I just love those sliding doors moments that happen to us in life. You walked into the wrong party and look at you now.
Yeah.
Just imagine what...
It's a tiny shift, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we talk about those moments enough, or maybe enough, they happen enough, or we realize them enough to sort of be able to reflect on how just beautiful that is, how accidentally walking into the wrong door has literally changed your entire life.
Everything. My career changed and grew because of what I learned in all those courses in the Tibetan system, and then my work to put it into organizational change consulting. My personal life, like the effects meditation has had on my mind, what it's had on jealousy, anger, envy, and all those afflictive states of mind, they're all things of the mind, right? Imagine if you knew how to work that gym, you could still hear the echo of anger or jealousy or pride or any afflictive emotion, but you won't have the hook. So I still have moments where my mind would like to tell me a shitty story or some trauma from the past, whatever, and I watch it because I have this attention. I can see it almost in slow motion arising, calling me for a fight, and I just won't buy it. And it's not because I'm some saint or anything like that. It's because I've trained my mind not to be hooked and to know the tools or the antidote to a specific state of mind that is afflictive. That's the game. The game is at every moment your mind will move, which movements will hook you and trigger you, and which ones will also lie to you. If you get that job, you'll be happy forever. That's also bullshit. You'll be happy for a while, maybe, but what will you do when you get unhappy? Yeah? Because if you put all your hopes on that only and don't realize it's your mind that's feeling fulfilled and nothing to do with the job or the partner or the career change or whatever, if you place your hopes out there, you will be hurt. And that doesn't mean that that's not the vehicle for your happiness. Yeah? And this is the dichotomy. This is the thing you study about and meditate on. There's a state of mind that has fulfillment or unfulfillment. And when you understand it's a state of mind, you can make more of it, and it doesn't matter what's in front of you. You can feel fulfilled and you're free. That's freedom from the hooks, it's incredible. But it's taken me 26 years to habituate enough to have confidence to get famous on Instagram. It's taken 26 years for me to be clear on what it's done for my mind and be able to share it in a way that people get it, that it's not dogmatic. Because I could sit here and here is the Buddhist tradition, so I can do that. But that is for a very specific group of people and not for everyone with a mind.
Yeah. And speaking of Instagram and the way that you share things. I started to notice while I was sort of been watching some of your stories and reels that you are walking around the block in obviously your neighborhood where Three Jewels is based. So I'm getting to know the block pretty well now after watching a few of those videos.
Good coffee shops.
Yeah.
That's an Aussie thing.
Yeah. And you've been inviting some guests on your little sort of spontaneous around the block chats, and you've been asking them questions, and they've been sort of explaining, providing an explanation for the maybe a challenging question that you might ask, or that might be a question that might be challenging maybe for me to answer, but it seems like maybe they're your students or they're people that are practicing at Three Jewels.
By the most part, they're my students. So that I've been teaching at Three Jewels this time around for 14 years, and I've taught those people. Most of those people I've taught all of those courses that the Dalai Lama learned. So in a way, it's me as a teacher testing whether they can respond with the philosophy they've learned and then practicing that philosophy. Because it's one thing to quote what the philosophy should say. It's a very different thing to hear whether they've practiced it. So as a teacher, part of my job is to check the learning, right? Because they're all the teachers at Three Jewels now. I teach very little public stuff at Three Jewels. I mostly teach teachers. So these are the teachers that come and say, hey, we've got this going on, or they're helping run Three Jewels. And I warn them. I say, we're going to have a video. If you want something from me, I'll ask you a question, right? And it's really for me to test. And they're up for the test. Yeah. Can you really tell me how to unravel a negative state of mind? How do you get joy? Or all the questions that I know are fundamental questions. And I'm so pleasantly surprised. They must have had a good teacher. No, I'm so pleasantly surprised because they're giving answers that are way more relevant than I would give them. Because I would give them in an old man, I'm 50-something. I know I look like a certain way. I don't hang out with the 20-year-olds on TikTok. They do. Yeah. So they're giving an answer that is inspiring for me to hear. And that's why I decided to do more of that. Because it was just the spontaneous walking around with a friend. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? And we just started videoing and it became a thing. And it's beautiful to hear them having internalized and then placed in their own language, their understanding of how they move their minds to goodness.
Hey there, I just wanted to take a quick moment to say a huge thanks to you. Yes, you, for continuing to listen. It means the world to us to have loyal listeners like you tuning in every episode. So, at the end of the episode, if you haven't already, I want you to do us a huge favor and find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok, where you can catch additional content and grace us with your thoughts. We would love to hear from you. Thanks again and enjoy the rest of the episode. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm watching it and I'm feeling it while I'm watching it, how beautiful it is that they've been able to do that. But then something else popped up. It's kind of that, yes, you're testing them. And that's, I guess, the point of you inviting them on and seeing and answering that question. It's kind of like a circle of life thing that I'm kind of seeing, because you've imparted that knowledge and that teaching. Now there comes the test where they sort of prove that they've taken it on. But the spectacular, joyful part of it for me was how much I saw you learning or realizing from what they were saying. It was almost like feeding back. It was like the feedback.
100%.
And that is just like, wait, I think Hector's doing something here that's just so important. It can't be underestimated. The teacher becomes almost the student again.
I do. Yeah. And if you follow the Tibetan tradition, right? If you follow the Tibetan tradition of, there's a reincarnated Dalai Lama, and whether you believe in that or not, that's what they practice. Everyone that's ever taught the Dalai Lama will be his student in the future, and vice versa. So that you go to your students knowing they will be your teachers in a future life, right? So there's this long game you play with each other, where I'll pass on this insight, you hold it until your mind turns to shit, like all our minds will turn to shit on the human realm. And then when I meet you again as a baby, maybe an ugly baby, and then...
Definitely an ugly baby. Definitely.
Then
it wouldn't be funny.
You pour that knowledge back into me.
Yeah.
And I'll pour it back into you. And so there's this kind of contract in the Tibetan system where your students will be your teachers and your teachers become your students.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It kind of reminds me, I used to teach people how to skateboard a lot more than I do now. And I got to a certain point where I could teach people it was like clockwork. I knew exactly what to do. And I got to a point with one student where I was stuck. And when I'm stuck in a lesson, it's like we're rolling along the beach and I'm observing something's not happening here. And I looked over and I realized that this person kind of wasn't breathing. They were holding on. And I was like, oh, and it's through, I guess that was through observation that this person's teaching me that, hey, if I want to become a better teacher myself, I need to now start to read your body language and teach you how to breathe. And so I love the student-teacher feedback loop that you've created, because what it says is that the destination isn't complete. People might look at you and go, wow, 20-something years, president of the studio, teaches all these teachers, and we have this unfortunately, hierarchical kind of mindsets in life. And I think what you're doing has reminded me that actually, if you look at it more like a circle rather than a pyramid, we're just all on this journey together. We're all just in different stages of it.
I wish I could tell. There's this. I'll do it. I'll try. Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
The essence of Buddhism, wake-upism, is that things are empty of a nature. You've heard of that, right? Mm-hmm. Emptiness. Okay. It doesn't mean things don't exist. It means that this object doesn't have the nature you think it does. For humans, it's a pen. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I've got a puppy over here, it's a chew toy. Mm. So this is not radiating chew toy. Otherwise, we'd want to chew on it. It's not radiating pen. Otherwise, dogs would want to write poems, right? Yeah. It is empty of chew toy. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have that in it. Empty of penness. If you put it on the side and all the dogs leave and all the humans leave, that you come up blank. You're like, what is it? Mm. But as soon as a human walks in, something in us is forcing us to experience this object like we intended it, a pen. Mm-hmm. But something in a dog mind is forcing it to be experienced as a chew toy. They salivate. They think, why are you wasting such a good chew toy, etc. If you get that concept, the natural consequence of that is we are projectors of our life experience, not experiencing life this way. Okay, if that's true, and everything that we engage with our senses is like this, empty of a nature, and we know what could project the highest thing, then you could meet Buddhas every day. You could meet the most enlightened people every day if you knew what caused that projection. Or you could meet shitty people every day. You could meet happy people every day if you knew what projected pen versus chew toy, awesome person versus shitty person. You never meet a shitty person that wasn't your projection is Buddhism. Yeah? Therefore, be a kind human being and generate the seeds that will force you to project awesome people. You got that as a basis, right? So this is just the intro.
Yeah.
If you get that, everybody you meet is somehow a reflection of some shitty or awesome thing you've done in the past. And so you want to see how shitty you were, see how many shitty people you meet, and trigger you, and how many awesome people you meet, right? That sends our world upside down. As a teacher of this stuff, I'm sitting in a room, 50 people, 100 people. With this view, I'm just looking at my past. Like the way I see that student and the way I see that student isn't student. The questions aren't questions. They are questions. They are not students, but questioners of my knowledge. They're like Buddhas inviting me to get wise again. So the way I see students, they might appear as, oh, I have a dumb question about meditation, but I'm suspicious. I'm like, you don't have that nature. You're not. You could be a chew toy. I can see you as a regular shitty student. I choose to see you, which is the way I'll experience you in the future, as the most tricky, enlightened angel person, asking me just the right question so Hector's mind can stop suffering. Thank you for that question. And so I'm having these epiphanies with these students who are just teachers for me constantly. There isn't a wasted question. There's not like a hierarchy in my...
Yes.
And yet I'll play the game. I'm the guru teacher with the beads. Look, I have the beads and I have the thing, and that tells a story in a certain world. But privately, oh my God, I am surrounded by magic people asking me the most stunning things.
Yeah.
To force my mind to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. What a gift. What a gift. I love that. And so, okay. And by the way, when you said that you'd come back as a baby before, Hector, it wouldn't be right if you came back as a good-looking baby.
I'd be an ugly baby.
It would just,
this beard would be there, remnant.
You have to.
I actually use one of those silly filters on TikTok that makes you young, makes you a baby, and it doesn't like the beard. It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, it's funny. I was walking down the street the other day feeling overwhelmed. I mean, it's Melbourne's a big city as well, not as big as New York, but there's a lot of people. And sometimes, and I think it's the process of me sort of, this process of self-discovery that I'm on. It's like sometimes you stop and think about this urban jungle that you're walking through and all these other souls in it. And I started to have this like overwhelmed anxiety moment. And the way that I stopped myself or was able to sort of get myself to calm down a little bit was like, it's okay. If you just see yourself in every single other soul that you're seeing right now, there's a bit of you in them. And then I started to go, oh, happy person, shopping person, homeless person. And I was like, okay, I can breathe.
Yeah.
Keep walking. They're all...
That is beautiful. That's an actual formal practice in Buddhist practices. The practice of swapping yourself for another is a formal practice because it does that job that you just did. It just gives you ease. If that person was me, all of a sudden I'd think of them different. And you drop your shitty judgment, you drop your fear because they're you. Mm. And there's lots of refined techniques. There's a shitty one. I'll give you one. On the subway, packed subway, right? Your mind's like, ugly person, fat person, screaming like it's judging constantly, right? Smelly person, whatever. Annoying headphone person.
Yeah.
And so the practice is imagine a bubble rising above your head, advertising every thought to that person, that they could read it.
Oh, gosh.
Right? So a bubble appears above your head and it says, Louis, this is what I think of Louis. And Louis could read it, and you swap yourself for Louis, and you read it like Louis. Instantly changes the way you think. Instantly, yeah? That's the more punitive side of those practices. There's a more loving side of the similar practice and same end result, which is, can you swap yourself for them and imagine what they want right now that would fulfill them, and imagine you are them and imagine they get it.
Yeah.
So then you send it on the breath. You send this kind of whatever it is that they're looking for. The baby's crying, whatever the baby's crying about, you become that answer for the baby. And sometimes the babies will stop crying, and sometimes the mothers will stop yelling, and sometimes the person will stop being annoying.
Yeah.
As soon as you start doing that practice. Both are mind training practices to shift a negative bias towards others and equalize the playing field. Yeah. So it's awesome that you just did that naturally, that you're like, how do I regulate this thing?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I guess I'm in, like I said, I'm in a process at the moment, and I'm one of those test and learn type of people, like I'm curious. Like, why do I feel this way? And what are all these people around me doing? Like, how do I stop this? It's because I think like if you, like I'm glad to be in this place where I am, where I'm starting to experience and discover these things, because it means that I'm becoming conscious. Whereas instead of maybe head down straight to work, ignoring what's happening around me, I'd rather feel overwhelmed, and by taking a moment to look at what's happening around me, than to feel like, I don't know, awesome in a bubble, if that makes sense.
Yeah. At least you're dealing with reality. Yeah. Like the reality is the busy mindset. Anyway, it grows and your capacity grows with it. And and you can do way more than you ever thought possible in terms of seeing other people as special.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? I've left this kind of question about Hector back in Argentina, sitting in the back of my mind. So you went back there, and that's, you know, coming here as a Venezuelan immigrant when I was 4 years old. We didn't necessarily ditch the whole Venezuelan South American thing, but we kind of did in some ways. I experienced racism too, and so my brother and I needed to become as Aussie as quickly as possible. Or face the consequences.
I actually thought it was a good thing, to be honest. I know it's not a popular view, but it gave me a second culture that I could understand, and neither was the answer. But together they were powerful. Yeah. Like I really, that's what helped me be a cultural change manager. So as an organizational change manager, I could understand the shadow side of Aussie and the awesome side of Logic and Aussie and the shitty side of Spanish. Like everything's a freaking melodrama or a tango, right? Everything's like, oh my God, I'm a victim. That's not really helpful. But then there's a bunch of emotional, really powerful, positive states of mind in that culture too. So bringing them together, because I ditched one and became one, and then I went back and I saw Argentina through the Aussie lens.
So how was that? I mean, was that...
It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
First of all, I saw their shittiness, the old habits, and I was afraid of them. Like I remember landing over Buenos Aires and seeing through the clouds the dirty backyards with the chickens, and I saw poverty, and I didn't remember it that way until I saw it. And when I saw it, I'm like, shit, we grew up in really shitty circumstances, and everyone down there is accepting it. And I wanted that plane to get the F up. I just wanted it to climb up again, and it wasn't. It kept landing. And I remember this fear, like I'm about to meet a part of me that I'm not, that I'd left dormant. And I did. Like I spent 9 months through South America, and I saw states of thinking that are unhelpful. For example, everyone complains in Argentina that the government's terrible and everyone's a thief and that's why we're all poor. And in the same sentence, they're like, that bitch down the road, she's got too much money. Let's steal her bricks tonight. Like in the same sentence, right? I'm a victim of theft. I'm going to steal from the rich. And in my Western mindset, the cause of you being a victim of losing things is because you're actively taking other people's things away, which is, by the way, a Buddhist mindset. So you can't experience theft without your seeds projecting theft, meaning you've caused theft in the past. I know we might take to other grounds, but that was one thing. But then at the same time, a romanticism, nostalgia, and love for life arose in the smells of Argentina, in the melancholy of a tango, in the same place that I saw the shitty mindsets that I'm so glad my parents took me away from. Because now I could produce my future, and I had opportunity in Australia, and I could make a career, and I had agency. There was no agency in Argentina, even when I returned. But there was a coldness to being Aussie, and there was a passion to being Spanish that it just ignited something. Oh my God, I fell in love so many times on that trip with anything that moved. I was just this love machine. Like I didn't know what to do with these beautiful emotions in my 20s backpacking through South America. You know, at another podcast I'll talk about being invited to love in a way that I'd never loved before. And that started in Argentina.
Wow.
And
how much more time do you have?
We don't have much more. But it was amazing to unite those cultures, and all of a sudden, neither of them were useful by themselves. And that gave me, if that's true for that, then it's also true for Asian culture. It's also true for every other system that we've put together. And then the only refuge, the only thing that I understood was the philosophy of how minds could create a culture, live in a system, and experience that system within that box. And here's another box, and here's another box. And Buddhism is just a bigger box that has all the boxes in it. It's just another construct that functions to do a thing. The common denominator in all the boxes is you have a movement of mind, a consciousness that experiences the world based on how you've coded your mind. Meditation is the gym, but it's also you learn how to code. So joy arises where hate used to arise, where hope arises, where hopelessness used to arise. You do the coding, you wait the freaking time because nothing happens instantly. If you plant a lemon tree, you're going to get bitter fruit, but you're not going to get it straight away. If you plant a sweet orange tree, you're going to get oranges. They're going to be sweet. They're not going to be bananas. They're not going to be apples. They're going to be oranges.
Yeah.
The same flavor of what you do day to day inside your mind and witness yourself doing with your mouth and your body, like what you say and what you think and what you do, gets recorded. And that recording in your mind projects a toy or pen. Does that make sense? And we're constructors of our own thing. And when we do it in a culture, we're Aussie. And when we do it like this, we're Argentinian. We're doing it like this, we're Buddhist. But we're one family of human projectors.
Yes. Yes. I was having this really great conversation with someone yesterday where I'm from Korea. We just met. And she was asking me, or we were talking about the world would be a better place if people could just, see things from each other's point of view. And I said, that's a lot of responsibility to ask of someone to suddenly go from their bubble, that's maybe an Aussie bubble, to go into your Korean bubble without having sort of been raised in that way. And I think maybe the thing about both of us being Latin American immigrants to Australia is that we have this beautiful, fortunate upbringing of being exposed to two completely different cultures at the one time, which leaves you open to other possibilities and makes that, I guess, allows that jump from those two bubbles maybe into Buddhism a bit easier than it is for someone that's just been raised in the outback and doesn't have any other. It's a lot to ask of that person.
Yeah, 100%. I feel that's why I started off. You asked me how am I joyous? It's the trauma, right? Like, I mean, I'm joking because everyone's bloody trauma this, trauma that with their trauma babies. But it was difficult growing up in Australia. Like my first day in school, I got the shit kicked out of me because some Chilean kid who I sat next to, who I thought knew English better than me because he'd been there all of 3 months. There was no ESL in the 70s when I got there. So the teacher's just teaching, and that's disrespectful for me to be a new student, not say something. And I knew I didn't understand. So I say to the Chilean kid very quietly so I don't get in trouble, how do I tell her I want to learn, but I don't understand? And he tells me in his broken English, he's like saying English sounds. And I'm like, my first English words in the classroom, right? So I raise my hand, the class stops. It's all Aussie blonde kids except me and the Chilean kid. She looks at me and she's like, yes. And I say, Miss, fuck off. And her reaction told me I said it wrong. Maybe I didn't say it right, right? Like maybe the pronunciation wasn't right. Maybe it was more on the F, maybe more on the second F. The Aussie kids, all the surfer kids around Coogee, they're just on the floor laughing really loud. She got angry, drags me outside. I'm so confused. And all I remember is her finger in my face going, no good, no good. And I'm like, no good. And I got it. No, that little prick wasn't my friend, right? So I came back really angry. I mean, I'm going to get you. And then the Aussie kids are like, you touch him, I touch you. Like there was all this thing when she had her back turned. And that afternoon, I got the shit kicked out of me. Like I thought I was fighting the Chilean kid. Well, I was fighting the whole class. I went home bruised. That was my first classroom experience in Australia, right? First English words. Awesome. Like now it's really funny, right? Like you could see how it was really traumatic, but that was like a initiation into Aussie jokes, right? Aussie culture, right? And now I can, that was pretty funny. That's hilarious. Yeah. But if I stopped there and wanted to take care of the ugly baby, then I could have been traumatized for the rest of my life. And oh my God, I'm a victim and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Bullshit. Now it's the best story I tell, right? It's like, and it's actually funny, but integrating into that culture was difficult for years, but every one of those experiences taught me something profound, right? Like you can't trust everybody. You don't assume things about, like I learned so many things just from that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm sure after thinking about it over and over, that's not the first time that teacher had to deal with that. You know, like he's like privately telling me no good.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been so good. You've got a couple of things coming up. I think, was it the Med Gala?
Yeah. So last year we realized that all our other wellness studios in New York, meditation studios, yoga studios, other Buddhist studios, every single one of them in the Lower East Side of Manhattan closed through COVID. Closed. Yeah. People couldn't go practice yoga there. And we were filled to the brim with yoga studios, except 3 Jewels. We stayed open because we're a nonprofit. People donated. We stayed open. We kept teaching. We went virtual. That's how we grew. And what we realized as COVID started to taper away is that all the people in those communities who have a place to go and meditate, whatever, didn't have a home. And so we created the Met Gala to troll the Met Gala, by the way. We did it the same week. So if you're going to the Met Gala and spend millions of dollars dressing up for the Met, for fashion, then you could do a little bit and fundraise for meditation to give access to meditation to people that normally wouldn't come, as well as gather the clan of wellness from not just New York now, but all of the United States and around the world. Come and have one night where you celebrate what it would feel like to have all the benefits of meditation and yoga. What would it be like to walk around as an enlightened self? What would it be like for Lou to just walk around and say, I've got no more shit to deal with. I just have pure joy, and everyone I'm interacting with is just pure joy. So we called it the Med Gala. So all the tickets go to fundraise, etc. And it was like we had over 1,000 people. We had performers. We had people flying from overseas. It was a huge hit in a big sort of clubby warehouse. It's just a big party, sober party. So no alcohol. Everyone, we have a massive sit, like just for a few minutes, everyone just stops the dancing and we stay still. It's incredible. And everyone dresses up to the hill. I'll send you the link. But what's cool about this year, and this podcast being Australian, is that we've got a really cool, sexy hotel and airline who want to give away a flight for 2 and a hotel for 2 in New York City for the Met Gala. So we're doing a raffle that costs $5 a pop or something, and all that money will go to give meditation to homeless shelters and scholarships and the rest. But if you want a chance to come to the Met Gala in New York and get paid a flight to and a hotel to be in New York for a week, then I know. Come to the Met Gala. Like, I'll send you the raffle link. Yeah. And so that's it. It's a once a year. It's the biggest fundraiser for 3 Jewels. And last year we gave away $130,000 worth of scholarships, like training time for mothers and people that just couldn't come if we weren't helping them financially. Yeah. So we focus on BIPOC, LGBTQ plus folks with disabilities or people with financial hardship. We do a big assessment. And we always get way more applicants for all our trainings and retreats and so on than we can afford to give. Otherwise, we'd go broke if we gave it all away. So we need people's help. Yeah. And it's a really cool party that brings everyone together around wellness. It's like, what's it feel like to be well for one night? Yeah. Just practice.
Awesome.
You know, it's so cool.
Yeah. When is it?
May 5th. May 5th. It's coming up in 2 months.
Cinco de Mayo, huh?
Cinco de Mayo. I know. We try not to say that so people don't turn up with sombreros. Yeah, it's like it's not like it's fashion. It's high. I'll send you. It's really cool pictures.
The mariachi
band.
The
other thing that we've got happening is a retreat in Spain where we do a 7-day in-depth meditation retreat. That happens after the Met Gala, 2nd or 3rd week of May, 20th of May, and so that I'll send you those links.
Yeah, awesome.
But also, anyone can take a 3 Jewels class because online it's free or by donation because we're a non-profit. Yeah, so I'll send you that link if people want to take a meditation or a yoga class or just look at an old reel of baby Hector. Yeah,
awesome. And people can find you. It's at Wake Upist on Instagram. Is that right?
Yeah.
And also Wake Upist. And also, is it 3 Jewels or the 3 Jewels?
It's just 3jewels.org is the website, or 3 Jewels NYC, all spelled out, THREE Jewels NYC on Instagram.
Yeah. What's your last bit of advice for someone sort of embarking on a journey of this kind, maybe the kind that you were on, where you knew that something was missing?
honestly, the older I get, the more I realize whatever game you're playing in your life will lead to a certain result. The corporate game will lead to that. The family game will lead to that. But all of those games have you in it. And please do not give up hope that you can transcend whatever shitty state of mind you've had to experience or endure. They can be overcome. And in their place, you can have just joy and certainty and confidence that is sustainable. And that you have to go to the gym for, but it's possible. So the biggest thing is, like, I see so many people giving up hope and settling for the shitty job or settling for my relationship being this way. Everything's up for grab. If this is empty of a nature, and it can be a chew toy or a pen, your relationship can be the most awesome thing or the most terrible thing. Your job can be the most empowering thing and shit. You don't have to change anything, just your mindset, and everything changes. Gandhi said it. Be the change you want to see in the world. You be something different. Watch the world change. That's what the point of the Met Gala is too. What's it taste like? Just to pretend to be happy one night and dress up like you're just fully fulfilled. Get a taste for it, because your mind can do it. Your mind can do it.
Yeah, awesome, beautiful. Yeah, it's been one of the funniest, most joyful conversations I've had. I'm sure all the listeners, mine and yours, are going to absolutely love this conversation. So thank you so much for joining me, Hector. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. Oh, I'm so sad that this has to end.
There'll be more. We can connect more.
Yeah, we definitely will, because I'm about to buy 100 tickets to the raffle.
Good. That'd be awesome if you came to the Met Gala and won that ticket.
I'm the only one who's buying tickets.
I'll see if I can. Yeah, you won't share the link.
I'll be sharing the link.
I know, I'm kidding.
But yeah, it's been so good, Hector, and thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to getting this episode out there and being in touch.
What a blessing. Thanks, Louis.
Hey there, listener. We'd love to know what you thought of that episode of the Louis Diaz podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and even TikTok to let us know. And be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave us a review on Spotify, where you can catch some of our other really great episodes. Thanks for listening, and catch you next time.